I'm straight, but I'm falling for my gay best friend. I really want to tell him. My name is Emma, and I've been best friends with Tyler for 3 years. We met in college and instantly clicked over our shared love of terrible horror movies and late-night diner food. Tyler came out to me within the first month of our friendship, which made everything easier because I never had to worry about romantic complications. But somewhere along the way, that changed for me. I started noticing how his eyes crinkle when he laughs, how he always remembers my coffee order, how safe I feel when he hugs me after a bad day. I know it's completely hopeless because he's gay, but I can't help how I feel about him. The problem is, Tyler's been acting really strange lately. It started about 2 months ago with these weird phone calls he'd take in another room. He'd get a text. His face would change completely, and he'd excuse himself saying it was family stuff. But I've met his family, and they're not the type to call constantly. Then there were the mysterious Friday night plans. Tyler used to spend every Friday with me, binge-watching Netflix and ordering Chinese food from that place on 3rd Street. Suddenly, he was always busy on Fridays, vague about where he was going. When I'd ask, he'd just say he was hanging with friends but never invited me along like he used to. The really weird part was how he started acting around other guys. Tyler used to be pretty open about his dating life, showing me Grindr matches and asking for advice about outfit choices. But now he seemed almost uncomfortable when attractive guys were around, like he was forcing himself to seem interested when he clearly wasn't. Last week, I was at the grocery store and saw him in the parking lot with someone I'd never seen before, a woman with long brown hair, mid-20s, wearing a sundress. They were standing close together, talking intensely, and when she touched his arm, Tyler didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned into it. I ducked behind a car, feeling ridiculous for hiding from my own best friend. When I looked again, they were hugging, and it wasn't a friendly hug. It was intimate, the kind of embrace you share with someone you're romantically involved with. She kissed his cheek before getting into her car. That night, I casually asked Tyler how his day went. He said he'd spent it alone, catching up on homework assignments. A complete lie. I started paying much closer attention after that, looking for explanations that made sense, but finding none. Tyler's apartment, which I'd been to hundreds of times, suddenly had things I'd never noticed before. A second coffee mug in his sink, when he supposedly lived alone. Long brown hairs on his bathroom counter that definitely weren't his short black hair. A women's magazine on his coffee table that he claimed his sister left behind, except his sister lives in Colorado. I confronted him yesterday, not about the woman, but about how distant he'd been lately. Tyler got defensive in a way I'd never seen before. Almost panicked. He insisted everything was fine, that he was just stressed about finals, but his hands were shaking as he said it. That's when I decided to follow him. I know it sounds crazy, but I needed to understand what was happening to my best friend. Friday evening, I parked outside his apartment building and waited in my car. At 7 p.m., Tyler came out with the same woman from the grocery store. They walked hand in hand to her car, and she kissed him on the lips before they got in. A real kiss, passionate and familiar, like they'd done it 1,000 times before. I followed them to a small Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place couples go for romantic anniversary dinners. Through the window, I watched them sharing wine and holding hands across the table like they were deeply in love. 3 hours later, they went back to her apartment together. I waited until 2 a.m., and Tyler's car was still parked outside her building. Now I'm sitting here realizing that everything I thought I knew about my best friend might be a complete lie, and tomorrow I have to decide whether to confront him about what I discovered. I drive home in a daze, windshield wipers slashing through the light rain that started to fall. It matches my mood perfectly, gloomy, uncertain, and growing more intense by the minute. My hands grip the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turn white as I try to process what I've just witnessed. Tyler. With a woman. Kissing her. Staying at her apartment until at least 2 a.m. The same Tyler who came out to me 3 years ago. The same Tyler I've been falling for despite telling myself it was hopeless because he's gay. The same Tyler who's been lying to my face for weeks. When I finally get home, I sit in my parked car for another 20 minutes, rain drumming on the roof while I stare blankly ahead. My mind keeps replaying every moment, the way he held her hand at the restaurant, how comfortable they seemed together, the passionate kiss before they entered her apartment. None of it makes sense. Once inside my apartment, I grab my laptop and start searching. Can gay men be attracted to women? Coming out as bisexual after identifying as gay. Sexual fluidity. I read article after article, learning about the complexities of sexuality, how some people discover new aspects of their identity years after coming out, how some face rejection from both straight and gay communities when they come out as bisexual. Is that what's happening with Tyler? Is he afraid to tell me he's bisexual? At 3 a.m., I hear my roommate Laura's key in the door. She's a nurse who works night shifts, and I'm grateful for the distraction. "What are you still doing up?" she asks, dropping her bag by the door. "You're not going to believe what happened tonight," I say, and launch into the whole surveillance operation story following Tyler, seeing him with the mystery woman, watching them at dinner, waiting outside her apartment until 2 a.m. Laura's eyes widen with each new detail. Wait, so Tyler, your gay best friend Tyler, is secretly dating a woman? I think so. I don't know what else it could be. And you followed him like a private investigator? She raises an eyebrow. I know it sounds crazy, I admit, but he's been lying to me for months. Laura sits beside me on the couch. Emma, you need to talk to him. Like, tomorrow. This isn't just about him potentially being bisexual. He's been actively lying to you. I know, I whisper, fighting back tears. I just don't understand why he wouldn't tell me. There's only one way to find out. Laura squeezes my shoulder. Want me to come with you when you confront him? Moral support? I consider it for a moment. No, this is something I need to do myself. After Laura goes to bed, I draft text after text to Tyler, trying to find the right words. We need to talk about what I saw tonight. Delete. I know about the woman you're seeing. Delete. Why have you been lying to me? Delete. Nothing feels right. How do you ask your best friend why he's been living a double life? At 4:30 a.m., my phone buzzes with a text from Tyler. Hey, can we meet at our diner tomorrow? Around noon? Need to talk to you about something. My heart pounds as I type back a simple, sure. I try to sleep but only manage a few restless hours, rehearsing what I'll say to him. Do I admit I followed him? Do I ask about his sexuality? Do I tell him how I feel about him? The questions swirl in my head until morning light filters through my blinds. At 10 a.m., another text from Tyler. Still on for noon. Really important. He sounds anxious, which only makes my nerves worse. I respond with a thumbs up emoji, not trusting myself with words. I arrive at the diner 15 minutes early, sliding into our usual booth by the window. The waitress brings me coffee without asking. We're regulars here, after all. As I stir in cream, movement outside catches my eye. It's her, the mystery woman. She's standing on the sidewalk, checking her phone, wearing a stylish trench coat against the lingering drizzle. Her long brown hair is pulled into a casual ponytail today, but there's no mistaking her. My stomach drops as I realize Tyler must have invited her too. Before I can process this, she's walking through the door, scanning the diner until her eyes land on me. There's a moment of recognition. She's seen me before, maybe at the grocery store when I was hiding, and then she's walking directly toward my booth. You must be Emma, she says with a warm smile, extending her hand. I'm Melissa, Tyler's girlfriend. The word girlfriend hits me like a physical blow. I shake her hand automatically, my mind racing to catch up with this new reality. Tyler's running a few minutes late, she continues, sliding into the booth across from me. He got caught on a work call, but he thought it might be good if we had a chance to talk first. Just us girls. I try to find my voice, which seems to have abandoned me completely. Melissa looks at me with genuine kindness in her eyes, completely unaware that her very existence has just shattered my world. I know this must be a shock, she says gently. Tyler's told me so much about you. You're his best friend, and that's why he wanted me to meet you properly. He's been so worried about how to tell you about us. I finally managed to speak, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. How long have you two been together? Melissa's smile falters slightly. 6 months, and I know he's been keeping it secret, which wasn't my idea, but it's complicated for him. 6 months. Tyler has been hiding this relationship for half a year while I've been falling deeper in love with him, thinking I knew who he was. Complicated how? I ask, gripping my coffee mug like it's the only thing keeping me grounded. Melissa leans forward, lowering her voice slightly. Well, coming out as bisexual after identifying as gay for so long, it's not easy. Tyler's terrified of how people will react, especially you. Me? I ask, genuinely surprised. Why would he be afraid to tell me? Because you're the most important person in his life, she says simply. He was afraid it would change things between you. The irony of her words isn't lost on me. Things are absolutely going to change, just not for the reasons Tyler feared. As I sit there trying to maintain a neutral expression, I spot Tyler through the window, hurrying toward the diner entrance, looking more nervous than I've ever seen him. Our eyes meet through the glass, and for a moment, he freezes, seeing me sitting with Melissa. The look of panic on his face tells me everything I need to know about how unprepared he is for what's about to happen. Well, coming out as bisexual after identifying as gay for so long, it's not easy. Tyler's terrified of how people will react, especially you. The words hang in the air between us as I struggle to keep my face neutral. My mind is racing, trying to process this bombshell, while simultaneously hiding the fact that I'm completely devastated. Me? I manage. Why would he be afraid to tell me? Because you're the most important person in his life, Melissa says simply. He was afraid it would change things between you. I'm saved from having to respond when I spot Tyler through the window, hurrying toward the diner entrance. Our eyes meet, and he freezes mid-step. The look of panic on his face is almost comical, like a deer caught in headlights. Except this deer has been lying to me for 6 months. He hesitates for a moment, and I can practically see him considering whether to turn and run. But then he takes a deep breath, squares his shoulders, and pushes through the door. Hey, he says, voice tight as he slides into the booth next to Melissa. His eyes dart between us nervously. We were just getting acquainted. Melissa says, smiling and taking his hand. I was explaining to Emma why you've been so nervous about all this. Tyler's face pales. How much did you tell her? Just that you're bisexual and afraid of how people might react, she says, squeezing his hand reassuringly. Emma seems completely supportive. Does she? I wonder how I'm managing to project support when I feel like I'm crumbling inside. But years of hiding my feelings for Tyler have apparently made me a better actress than I realized. I am, I hear myself say. Tyler, why wouldn't you tell me? Did you think I'd judge you? Or something? He won't meet my eyes. It's complicated, Em. I've identified as gay for so long. I didn't even understand what was happening at first when Melissa and I met. I thought maybe it was just a fluke. But then, he trails off, looking at Melissa with such genuine affection that it's like a knife twisting in my chest. Then it wasn't a fluke. 6 months, I say, unable to keep a slight edge from my voice. You've been together 6 months and you never said anything? Tyler flinches. I know it sounds bad. It sounds like you've been lying to me. I interrupt. All those Friday nights you canceled, the mysterious phone calls, the way you've been avoiding me? I'm sorry, he says, and he looks genuinely remorseful. I was trying to figure out how to tell you. The longer it went on, the harder it got. I kept telling him to just be honest, Melissa adds, but he was worried about backlash from his friends in the gay community too. Some people can be really judgmental about bisexuality. So you just decided to lie to everyone? I ask. Tyler runs a hand through his hair. Not everyone. My sister knows. And a couple of people from work. I was working up to telling you. I swear. The waitress approaches, and we all fall silent as she takes our orders. I barely register what I'm asking for, my mind still reeling. So, Tyler says after she leaves, now you know. I'm bisexual. And Melissa and I are together. He reaches across the table, his hand stopping short of touching mine. Are we okay? I want to scream that no, we're not okay. That I've been falling in love with him while he's been building a relationship with someone else. That every time he canceled our plans, I felt like I was losing my best friend without understanding why. Instead, I force a smile. Of course we're okay. I just wish you'd trusted me sooner. Relief washes over his face. Thank you for understanding. I should have known you would. He brightens suddenly. Hey, why don't you come over for dinner tonight? To my place? The 3 of us can hang out, and you 2 can get to know each other better. That sounds wonderful, Melissa says, beaming at me. I want to say no. I want to make up some excuse and go home and cry into my pillow, but Tyler looks so hopeful, and I can't bear to disappoint him. Sure, I say. What time? You have to tell him, Laura says, pacing around our living room while I lie on the couch, staring at the ceiling. I'd called her the moment I got home from the diner, desperate for advice. Tell him what? That I'm in love with him? That would make everything so much worse. How could it be worse than watching him with someone else while pretending you're fine with it? I cover my face with a pillow, because at least this way I still have him in my life. If I tell him how I feel, it'll make everything weird. He'll feel guilty, or pity me, or worst of all, he'll distance himself completely. Laura pulls the pillow away. Or maybe he feels the same way. Did you ever consider that? Maybe he's with this Melissa person because he thinks he can't have you. I shake my head. You didn't see them together. They're happy. They look right together. My voice breaks on the last words. Then why are you going to dinner tonight? Why torture yourself? Because he's still my best friend, I say, sitting up. And if I can't have him the way I want, I at least need to try to keep that part of our relationship intact. Laura sighs. You're a better person than me. I'd have thrown a drink in his face and stormed out of that diner. Despite everything, that makes me laugh. No, you wouldn't. You'd do exactly what I'm doing, putting on a brave face and trying to be supportive. Maybe, she concedes. But I still think you should tell him. Dinner is excruciating. Tyler cooks pasta while Melissa and I sit at his kitchen counter drinking wine. She's telling me about her job as an art therapist, and the worst part is that I actually like her. She's smart, funny, and clearly adores Tyler. Under different circumstances, we could probably be friends. Tyler keeps glancing over at us, looking relieved that we're getting along. He doesn't notice how I flinch every time he casually touches Melissa a hand on her shoulder as he passes, fingers brushing hers as he hands her a glass. So how did you 2 meet? I ask, masochistically curious about the details. At the gallery where I volunteer, Melissa says. Tyler came in for a charity event, and we ended up talking about Rothko for an hour. She thought I was straight, Tyler adds, grinning as he stirs the sauce. I had to correct that assumption. But not completely, as it turns out, Melissa says, nudging him playfully. They share a private smile, and I take a large gulp of wine to dull the ache in my chest. I still can't believe you kept this secret for so long, I say, trying to keep my tone light. You're usually terrible at hiding things from me. Tyler's smile falters. I know, I'm sorry, Em, I really am. He looks so genuinely contrite that I can't even be properly angry with him. And that's the problem. I've never been able to stay mad at Tyler, even when he deserves it. As I watch them move around each other in the kitchen, finishing dinner preparations with the easy familiarity of a couple who've been together for months, I realize Laura was wrong. Telling Tyler how I feel wouldn't change anything except to make all three of us uncomfortable. Some truths are better left unspoken, even if keeping them inside feels like swallowing broken glass. I avoid Tyler for 2 weeks. It's not hard, I just make excuses. My mom's in town. She lives 3 states away. Each lie comes easier than the last, and Tyler seems to accept them without question. Maybe he's relieved not to deal with the awkwardness of our new reality. Laura watches me dodge his calls with increasing frustration. You can't avoid him forever, she says one night as I silence my phone for the 3rd time in an hour. I'm not avoiding him forever, I argue, just until I can look at him without wanting to cry. And when will that be? I shrug, focusing on the TV show neither of us is actually watching. Maybe never. The truth is, seeing Tyler with Melissa at dinner broke something in me. They moved around his kitchen with such easy familiarity, touching casually, sharing private jokes. Every smile they exchanged felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. I'd spent the entire evening maintaining a facade of supportive friendship while dying inside. It's Friday night, what used to be our night, when my doorbell rings unexpectedly. Laura peeks through the peephole and turns to me with wide eyes. It's Tyler, she whispers, and he looks pissed. Tell him I'm not home, I hiss, already backing toward my bedroom. She gives me a withering look. Your car is parked right outside. He's not stupid. Before I can protest further, she opens the door. Tyler stands there, hands shoved in his pockets, jaw clenched. Hey, Laura, he says, his voice tight. Is Emma here? I know she is, so please don't lie for her. Laura steps aside. I'll give you guys some privacy, she says, grabbing her jacket. I need to run some errands anyway. She shoots me a meaningful look as she slips past Tyler and closes the door behind her. Tyler and I stare at each other in tense silence. He looks terrible, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. He's wearing the faded blue hoodie I got him for Christmas last year. So, he finally says, are you going to tell me why you've been avoiding me for 2 weeks? I haven't been. Don't, he cuts me off. Don't lie to me, Emma. Not after 3 years of friendship. The irony of him lecturing me about lying makes anger flare in my chest. That's rich coming from you, I snap. You lied to me for 6 months about Melissa. That was different. How? How was it different, Tyler? You were living a double life. He runs a hand through his hair in frustration. I was trying to figure things out. I was confused and scared. And I wasn't worth trusting with that confusion? My voice rises. I thought I was your best friend. You are, he shouts back. That's why it was so hard. You're the most important person in my life, and I was terrified of losing you. Well, guess what? You're losing me anyway. The words burst out before I can stop them. Do you have any idea what it's been like, watching you with her, seeing how happy you are while I cut myself off, but it's too late. Tyler goes very still. While you're what? I turn away, tears threatening. Nothing. Forget it. No. He grabs my arm gently, turning me back to face him. What were you going to say? The look in his eyes undoes me completely. All the walls I've built, all the lies I've told myself about being okay with just friendship, they crumble in an instant. While I'm in love with you, I whisper, the words hanging in the air between us. I have been for a long time. Tyler's hand drops from my arm. His expression shifts from anger to shock, his mouth opening slightly. You, what? I'm in love with you, I repeat, my voice stronger now that the secret is out. And I know it's stupid because you're gay or bisexual, whatever, and you're with Melissa. But that's why I've been avoiding you. Because it hurts too much to pretend I'm okay with all of this. Tyler takes a step back, running both hands through his hair. Emma, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I tell him, wiping away tears. It's not your fault. I never expected anything to happen between us. I just couldn't keep pretending. He stares at me for what feels like an eternity, his expression unreadable. I need some time to process this, he finally says, backing toward the door. Tyler, I'll call you, he says, already halfway out. I need to think. The door closes behind him with a soft click that somehow feels more final than a slam would have. I sink to the floor, hugging my knees to my chest, convinced I've just destroyed the most important relationship in my life. Tyler doesn't call. Not that night. Not the next day. By the 3rd day of silence, I've accepted that our friendship is over. I've replayed our argument in my head 1,000 times, wishing I could take back my confession. He hasn't even read my texts, I tell Laura, staring at my phone. I've ruined everything. Give him time, she says, but even she sounds doubtful now. By the end of the week, I decide I need to move on. When my coworker Jason asks if I want to grab dinner Saturday night, I surprise myself by saying yes. He's nice, attractive, in a conventional way. And most importantly, he isn't Tyler. The date is perfectly fine. Jason talks about his rock climbing hobby, his dog, and his plans to visit Portugal next summer. I nod and smile in all the right places, but inside I feel nothing. When he walks me to my door and leans in for a kiss, I turn my head at the last second so his lips land on my cheek. I'm sorry, I say. I'm not ready for this. He's disappointed but understanding. Someone else? He asks. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. Lucky guy, Jason says with a sad smile before walking away. The next morning, I'm sorting files at my desk when a familiar voice says, "Can we talk?" I look up to find Tyler standing in the doorway of my office, looking as nervous as I've ever seen him. My heart lurches painfully in my chest. "What are you doing here?" I ask, glancing around to see if any of my coworkers are watching. "You weren't answering my calls," he says. "I left 3 voicemails last night." I pull out my phone and see the notifications I missed while on my date with Jason. "Oh," I say lamely. "I was out." Something flickers across his face, hurt. Maybe jealousy? With who? "Does it matter?" I counter, suddenly defensive. "Yes," he says simply. "It matters to me." We stare at each other across my tiny office, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "Not here," I finally say, grabbing my jacket. "Let's go to the park across the street." We walk in silence until we reach a bench under an old oak tree, far enough from others to have privacy. I sit, and Tyler joins me, leaving a careful space between us. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he begins, his voice quiet, "about what you said. About us." I brace myself for the gentle letdown, the "I value our friendship" speech. "I've always felt different with you," he continues. "Different than with anyone else. I thought it was just because you're my best friend, but now I'm not sure." I look at him, confused. "What are you saying?" Tyler takes a deep breath. "When I met Melissa, I was shocked by my attraction to her. It made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. But being with her helped me understand something important." He turns to face me fully. "The way I feel about her is nothing compared to how I feel about you." My breath catches. "Tyler, I think I've been in love with you too," he says, the words tumbling out now. "But I convinced myself it wasn't possible because I identified as gay. I put those feelings in a box labeled friendship, because that was easier than questioning my entire identity." "What about Melissa?" I ask, afraid to hope. "I ended things with her last night," he says. "It wasn't fair to her. She deserves someone who's all in, and I realized I never was. My heart was always somewhere else." He reaches for my hand hesitantly. I stare at our joined hands, afraid this is some cruel dream I'll wake from any moment. "Are you sure? Because if this is confusion or experimentation—" "It's not," he interrupts firmly. "Emma, you're the person I want to watch horror movies with at 2 a.m. You're the one I text when something good happens. You're the first person I think about when I wake up." His voice softens. I was just too scared to admit what that meant. And then he's leaning forward, his free hand coming up to cup my cheek. The kiss is gentle, questioning at first, then deepening as I respond. It feels like coming home to a place I've never been before, familiar and brand new all at once. When we finally pull apart, Tyler rests his forehead against mine. "I don't have all the answers," he whispers. "I'm still figuring out what this means for my identity, but I know I want to figure it out with you." "I'd like that," I say, smiling through tears. "We can figure it out together." "I'm ending things with Melissa," Tyler says, his eyes never leaving mine. We're sitting on a bench at the park across from my workplace, the afternoon sun filtering through oak leaves above us. My heart stutters in my chest. "Because of what I realized," he corrects gently. "Emma, I've been confused for months. When I met Melissa, I thought my attraction to her was this huge revelation that I'd been wrong about myself all these years. But being with her just made me more confused because—" He trails off, searching for words. "Because what?" I prompt, afraid to hope. "Because I kept comparing how I felt about her to how I feel about you." His voice drops to almost a whisper, and it wasn't even close. I stare at our hands, still joined on the bench between us. "What does that mean, exactly?" "It means I've had feelings for you for a long time. I just didn't recognize them for what they were." Tyler shifts to face me more fully. "I put everything I felt for you into this box labeled friendship because that made sense with how I identified, but it was always more than that." My throat tightens. "How do you know this isn't just confusion?" "I don't want to be an experiment, Tyler." "You're not," he says firmly. "Emma, you're the person I text first thing in the morning. You're who I want to share good news with. You're the one I miss when we're apart." His thumb traces circles on my palm. "I've spent 3 years building my life around you without even realizing it." I want to believe him so badly, but fear keeps me hesitant. "What about the gay community? Your friends? Won't they think you've been lying this whole time?" Tyler winces. "Some already do. I told Max and Javier yesterday, and Max basically accused me of having internalized homophobia. Said I was taking the easy way out by choosing to be straight. That's not fair," I say, indignant on his behalf. "No, but I get it. Identity is complicated, and people don't like when you challenge their neat categories." He squeezes my hand. "But I can't live my life for other people's comfort. I need to figure out who I am, and I know I want you in that picture." I search his face, looking for any sign of uncertainty. "So what happens now?" "Now?" Tyler's lips curve into a smile. "Now I think we take things really, really slowly. We've been friends for 3 years. I don't want to rush and mess this up." The tension in my shoulders eases slightly. "But there is one thing I've been thinking about for a while," he admits, his gaze dropping to my lips. My breath catches. "What's that?" Instead of answering, Tyler leans forward, closing the distance between us. The kiss is gentle at first, questioning, but deepens as I respond. It feels nothing like I imagined. It's better. More real. His hand comes up to cup my cheek, and I feel myself melting into him. 3 years of suppressed longing finally finding release. When we pull apart, Tyler rests his forehead against mine. Wow, he whispers. Yeah, I agree, slightly breathless. Definitely not just friendship. He laughs, the sound warm and familiar yet somehow new. Definitely not. The next few weeks aren't easy. Tyler faces more backlash than either of us expected when word gets out about us. Some of his friends from the gay community stop inviting him to events. Others demand explanations he's still struggling to articulate. They act like I've betrayed them. He tells me one night as we're curled up on my couch watching a horror movie, our old Friday night ritual now transformed into something new, like my entire identity was a lie. I trace patterns on his arm. You weren't lying, you're just figuring things out. I know, but it still hurts. He sighs. Max unfriended me on everything. 3 years of friendship, gone just like that. I feel a stab of guilt. Because of me? No, Tyler says firmly, pausing the movie to look at me. Because of his own issues. This isn't your fault, Emma. But sometimes it feels like it is. I see the hurt in Tyler's eyes when another friend distances themselves. Hear the hesitation in his voice when he introduces me to people who knew him as gay. I wonder if I'm worth all this turmoil. Stop, Tyler says one evening, catching me in these thoughts. I can see you overthinking. This is my journey, Emma. I'd rather have you and face these challenges than take the easy road without you. Slowly, we build something new between us. It's not always smooth. We have arguments about boundaries, about how much physical affection feels right, about the pace of our relationship. But underneath it all is the solid foundation of friendship we've built over 3 years. 6 months later, we're sitting at our diner, in our usual booth by the window. Tyler reaches across the table to take my hand, a gesture that now feels natural. I need to apologize for something, he says, his expression serious. What? I ask, suddenly nervous. The way I handled everything with Melissa. Lying to you for 6 months, sneaking around. He shakes his head. It was wrong, and I'm sorry I put you through that. I squeeze his hand. You were scared. I was, but that's no excuse. You deserved better, especially from me. His eyes meet mine, earnest and clear. I promise I won't ever hide things from you again. I believe you, I say, and I mean it. These past months have shown me a Tyler who's more honest, more open than ever before, not just with me, but with himself. I've been thinking about labels, he continues. I think I'm comfortable with bisexual now, but honestly, the only label that really matters to me is yours. Mine? His smile turns shy. Boyfriend. Partner. Whatever you want to call me. I laugh, feeling lighter than I have in months. I like the sound of boyfriend. Good, he says, leaning across the table to kiss me briefly, because I'm not going anywhere. Later, as we walk hand in hand through the park where we had our first real kiss, I think about all the risks we took to get here, my confession that could have ended our friendship, Tyler's courage in questioning his identity, both of us facing judgment and uncertainty. What are you thinking about? Tyler asks, noticing my thoughtful expression. Just that some risks are worth taking, I say, squeezing his hand. Even when you're terrified. He stops walking to pull me into his arms, especially then, he murmurs against my hair. And standing there in the fading light, wrapped in the arms of the man who was first my friend, then my heartbreak, and now my love, I know he's right. Some leaps of faith land you exactly where you're meant to be.